It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You Like.
Oh, mine's not unmuted either?
Horrible producer you have over here.
Oh, he's all right. He's just kind of entrenched over there, right?
He's number one, I'm number 4.
Pete is number one. Okay, now is my mic open? Yeah. Hey-o, the Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovaceks. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate us appreciate you getting us on the air. Scotty Swingler, of course, the producer. In-house today, our Chris Visser is somewhere in Central Florida, rocking and rolling this morning. Setting us up with Rich Podolsky, who we're going to talk to in about 20 minutes. Rich has put out a book recently that is already selling like hotcakes. It is a John Madden, Pat Summerall book, and it is one of the look. He's one of the better writers that you're going to have tap into the sports media space that he knows as well as anyone, having worked at CBS on the NFL Today. He wrote a book about the NFL Today, and his next book was about John Madden and Pat Summerall, and he's going to talk to us about that today. But first, again, we're presented by Slovacics, right? Socorro Family Ford, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, and, of course, First National Bank of Central Texas. It's funny. We kind of have to be like Matt Mosley because we have so much going on. It's just kind of like we mention each sponsor and say
thank you, First National Bank.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for what you do. We thank all of those outlets for what they do. But right now, we want to thank the College Football Playoff Committee. I do, because we have got 2 Big 12 teams that are right now in the College Football Playoff. If the season were to end today, okay, and we've got one more banging on the door in the form of Utah. And we just taped Inside the 12 this morning. And, Scotty, I didn't want to bring this up, but it's fun to bring up here.
Well, let's bring it up 2 minutes into the show.
Well, it's fun to bring it up here because
okay.
Texas and Oklahoma are the first 2 teams out. 2 teams formerly.
Yeah, and I think they're overrated as it is.
But they're 2 teams from the Big 12 that are on the outside looking in, sitting in the SEC, which I find to be just like, that's an interesting little, caveat. But this whole story, I have my reasons as to why the Big 12 this year has sort of catapulted itself way beyond the ACC, right? I'm curious to get your thoughts as to why. Let's give them to me.
Yeah, and that was my biggest takeaway from these rankings, right? Is there's clearly more respect for the top of the Big 12 than the top of the ACC, and I think there's 2 things at play here, Pete. One, your three prestige name brand programs in the ACC: Clemson, Miami, Florida State, all down. Even Miami, who started the season looking really good. David Pollack was on with us about a month ago and said they might be the best team in college football. Yeah. They've dropped to, they don't look like a playoff team, as you can see reflected number 18 in these initial rankings. So your 3 kind of name brands are down. If Clemson had 2 losses, if Florida State carries that momentum off the Alabama game and maybe has 1 or 2 losses, you might see one of those in the top 12. They're not, right? The other thing is the Big 12 has matched up well against ACC and interconference play. Think about a middling Big 12 team, TCU, just putting it on UNC. And I know UNC is not very good, but like putting it on them. Yeah. I think of the fact that SMU went 0-2 against the Big 12, losing to both Baylor and TCU, who are arguably down this year from years past, whereas they just went in and beat it was Miami this past weekend, right? Yeah. So like,
it's a great call, dude.
Whether it's conference versus conference or just the fact that like your kind of marquee brands are down, both are hurting the ACC. Meanwhile, nobody expected BYU to be undefeated, and they went into Ames, Iowa, and steamrolled one of the better programs of the Big 12. So here they are.
Yeah, and I think too. I was talking to our buddy Taylor McCarg this morning. And I really do appreciate your expertise because you are so dialed in on this. And his piece of it was that this year, the Big 12 is not as muddy in the middle or even at the bottom. And what I mean by that is there are clear contenders, there are clear teams in the middle, and there are clear teams at the bottom. And that makes for a conference. It really does. If you have elite teams at the top of your conference, and now hold on, there is one outlier because we always talk about this. There is some chaos left. And one fear that I have is that BYU could possibly turn into a pumpkin.
They got a tough road
in the month of November. That's what Taylor said this morning, and I agree with that. They have a tough November, and their strength of schedule so far has been weak. So that's a fear of mine.
Here's where I disagree with Taylor as far as being muddy. If these rankings had come out a week ago, Houston and Cincinnati would both be featured, and Cincinnati might slot into that number 12 or 13 spot.
Yeah.
And they got the doors blown off by Utah. This is still a league where anybody can beat anybody on any given week. Okay. And I'm honestly, the one surprise I had, I'm surprised Cincinnati didn't sneak in here. Loss in week 1 to Nebraska. Nebraska doesn't look great, but then, I mean, your only other losses to this 13 team here on this list, I mean, I might have Cincinnati above a Pittsburgh or a Tennessee if it were me. I'm sure they were close to this 25 number, but I was shocked to see Utah so high. I think that's just a respect for head coach, a respect for PFF says it's the best offensive line in the country, and what they just did to Cincinnati. Clearly that meant something to the committee as well.
Yeah. And it just shows it is no picnic going into Rice Eccles. And I think the more you can sort of flex that muscle and show that we are a team that at home, outside of that misstep against Texas Tech, which it seems like everybody's having one this year against Texas Tech, they have really held up their end of the bargain at home. Outside of the Big 12, what's your biggest surprise here?
I think I have a good surprise in that the AP seems to continually undervalue Iowa and Washington, and I think they got their due here. I think those are top 25 teams that have been kind of slighted by the AP voters thus far. I think Oklahoma and Texas are still a little high. I know they both kind of got it done. Oklahoma even more so. Well, I mean, Texas was playing Vanderbilt, so both against good opponents here. But I just don't know that they stand here. I think for me, and I'm a little biased here because I've been kind of pulling for this team all season. I'm a little surprised to see Virginia higher than Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's looking like with these rankings, the winner of the ACC championship game will get in, and probably no one else. Last year you had that weird scenario where I don't remember if Clemson had 2 or 3 losses, but you had Clemson, who shouldn't have even probably gotten in, beat SMU in the ACC championship. SMU was
everything.
SMU was undefeated at the time, so they ended up getting both teams in. You're not going to get that this year. I mean, so whoever wins, Georgia Tech, if they win that ACC championship game, they get in, probably no one else. So, but yeah, honestly, I tweeted this. I think the committee mostly got this right. I think based on the results so far, it's mostly right. The only argument I've heard is you could make a case that Indiana and Texas A&M have better wins than Ohio State.
Okay.
And Mac Rhodes came out last night and kind of talked about the importance of strength of record.
Looking really handsome.
He cleaned up, didn't he? And talking about strength of record. I can't imagine Ohio State, and I haven't looked this up. I can't imagine Ohio State has a stronger strength of record than the other two. Ohio State's best win being Washington, who just barely sneaks into this top 25. Indiana, of course, beat Oregon in Outson.
Yeah.
That's a signature win, not just for the season, but probably for that program so far. And then A&M, kind of put it on to Notre Dame, who's number 10 here. So I think you could argue that, like, if you were just doing resume, A&M and Indiana could kind of duke it out for that number 1 spot. But I think most people in the country just assume Ohio State's the best team, and clearly the committee does as well.
A couple other news and notes from around the Big 12 and college football. Had a chance to talk with Shahan Jayaraja this morning on Inside the 12. You can watch that tomorrow night on True TV, HBO Max, and your Big 12 markets. But and I don't want to bring Scotty in right now because this will get him really pissed. But we were talking.
Did you say don't want to bring me in, or do you?
Well, I want to see your reaction to this. So
right.
He was saying, you might have seen him say this already, and you may already know this.
Shahan's my boy. So
Shahan is the man.
Yeah,
and all he's doing is offering information because he's an insider. But we were talking to him about the Big 12 and the college football playoff. But then, hey, I'm curious about Oklahoma State. Like, there are so many openings in college football, maybe some yet to come, right, in the Big 12, maybe down the road here in Waco. And I asked him about, what do you see happening at Oklahoma State? And he said Eric Morris. He said that's got
that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But that, see, what's happening now is, if you're another team that could possibly have an opening at head coach, right, you are now going to have the cupboard will be bare, right? For, like, Oklahoma State is sort of in the same category as a Baylor as far as what kind of coach you could get.
Sure.
I would think they're fighting for the same type of guy.
Sure.
And if Eric Morris were to take that job at Oklahoma State, that's one guy you cross off the list, right, for an opportunity that could become available here in Central Texas. And I just bring that up because now I'm starting to think, as much as it's fun to celebrate the game and to talk about the college football playoff, because that is awesome, the underbelly of this is, okay, what are we doing about these coaching openings now, right? And who is going to be stuck standing up when the music stops? You don't want that to be your team, right? And you certainly don't want the marketplace to have you maybe stuck on stupid, and you're just like, you know what? The buyout, who are we going to get? Let's just hold firm. You don't want that either.
Yeah, and this is where I agree with Shahan. I think Eric Morris is probably the top candidate at Oklahoma State at this moment. I think where I would push back, not just against you, Pete, but against something I'm hearing
against me.
I'm hearing this all over X, all over sports media in general, is that this carousel is so crazy and there's so many good open jobs, and there are. I mean, more and more jobs are opening up every week, and there will be more to come, not just potentially Baylor, but more. It seems like people think, well, where are you going to find coaches? There's not enough coaches. I disagree. I think there's plenty. Of viable candidates. I'm working on an article right now. If Baylor decides to let Dave Aranda move on, of 30 potential candidates, and a couple of them are reaches.
You're awesome, dude. That's awesome.
A couple of them are reaches. A couple of them are like, this is probably never going to happen. Like I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago, Mike Singletary. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But like, will his name come up? Yes.
Yeah.
Will Baylor hire him? No. But like, there are so many good football. I think there are so many good football coaches in this country, from guys that just got fired, James Franklin, Billy Napier. I think these are good football coaches that didn't succeed to the level they needed to where they were, but can go have success somewhere else. Look at Dan Mullen right now at UNLV. Sometimes you just need the right scenario. So you've got these guys that got fired, but they're going to get other jobs. And then you've got, it's not just Eric Morris. I think you've got a bevy of young, talented head coaches at the group of 5 level who are in their late 30s, early 40s, or later 40s, like
who
Eric
are
Morris,
suited for this climate,
who are ready, man.
Yeah.
They are ready to take the
Agreed.
reins of these big programs. And that's not even to mention the plethora of other coordinators at the Power 5 level. Will Stein at Oregon's looking for a job.
Yeah.
Brian Hartline at Ohio State's probably going to get one of these big jobs. You've got former coaches that could come out of retirement. I mean, there's just, I think the pool of coaches is big. And for Baylor and Oklahoma State, I think what that forces you to do is be creative, one, which probably helps you search for the right guy, but two, it kind of ensures you get someone who wants to be there, because Eric Morris is going to have 5 interviews if he wants them.
Yeah.
Like Baylor would interview him, Oklahoma State would interview him. I bet maybe Arkansas gives him a call. UCLA is probably begging. If Rhett Lashley leads SMU, they're going to call him. Like, there's plenty of schools that are going to call Eric Morris. And so, if you're Oklahoma State and he's like, I'm coming to Stillwater, you've got a guy that sees the value of your opening and wants to be there. That could be valuable.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's pros and cons, man. But you said the best thing a second ago. Don't get stuck on stupid. If you know it's time to move on, don't let the crowded cycle scare you off. I think it could actually benefit an Oklahoma State or a Baylor.
Yeah, and on Inside the 12, it's funny. Like, you don't want to ask Shahan about a coaching position that's not open yet,
right?
But he wrote
the article.
He wrote the story that it's time to move on from Dave, and he's an extremely thoughtful guy. And he said that he feels that Utah game, that the matchup is so porous for Baylor, that the Bears will just get flattened in that game.
I think he's right, and
that will open the door to, like, okay, it truly is time.
Yeah,
right. Because UCF at home, that's not quite the hurdle, but Utah anywhere is. Right.
Correct. And that offensive line is the best in the country, and Baylor's defense has struggled against good running teams. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And Shahan, for those that just know him as the CBS
college football writer,
was my peer at Baylor. The dude loves Baylor, and he does a excellent, A+, best in the industry job of like not letting his like fandom of Baylor show in his writing. I actually think it probably means when he writes an article like that, it's time, because he is actually going to have, I think, the most kind of boundaries around, well, I don't need to comment on Baylor.
Yeah.
Well, I need to leave the Baylor thing alone. Well, I don't want to speak as a fan. When he writes it, it's because it's probably true.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, we hear stuff, you hear stuff, I hear stuff. I heard something I'll tell you offline. I hate to do that, but that I'm not comfortable.
Sorry, audience.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable talking around here, and I think he does the same thing. And the reason I'm not is because I don't have it sourced up like I should, and it would be irresponsible for me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, we're going to take a break. Rich Podolsky is joining us to talk about his brand new book about John Madden and Pat Summerall. That's coming up at 11 a.m. So we got to take a quick respite, and we're going to come back talking with the great Rich Podolsky.
With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Designed to elevate the off-road experience, enabling adventurers to conquer any terrain. For 50 years, you've trusted us on your toughest recoveries, to your most breathtaking destinations, and in countless unforgettable memories.
We offer fast shipping, exceptional customer support, and furniture solutions that stand up to high-traffic environment. Elevate your space with BizChair's vast selection of stylish, reliable, and cost-effective furniture. Visit us today at bizchair.com to transform your business.
But boy, it looked effortless.
Man, watch this.
Layups, floaters, threes. He was like an unsolvable equation.
I was born like this.
His resilience, his strength, his belief, adversity never stood a chance.
Know your power.
VivoSun's mission is to empower growers with stylish and effective products, making indoor growing accessible and enjoyable for everyone. Visit vivosun.com today and get started making growing plants and vegetables easy and automatic.
whypersonalloans.com. Request a loan anytime. Our partners can offer loans up to $35,000 with varying rates and terms. Review your loan offer with no obligation and decide what works for you. Visit personalloans.com today.
So all you have to do is tap your Popple to the back of someone's phone like that, and they instantly get your social media and contact info right on their screen. They don't need an app or a Popple to receive your info. So get your Popple today and start impressing everyone you meet. Make it pop.
Is your Mac running slow? Mac Booster 8 is your all-in-one solution to clean up 20 types of junk files. Get your Mac running like new again with Mac Booster 8. Visit macboost.net today.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farm, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with scratch defense non-stick. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
I am obsessed with helping business owners increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. It's this amazing platform where people are looking for ideas, inspiration. They have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution.
Stability.
All right, the Pete Sousa Show rolls on right now. The book is Madden and Summerall, How They Revolutionized NFL Broadcasting. I was there with a front row seat in my parents' house watching the TV all the way through from NFL Today through the 4 o'clock game when they were talking about Murder, She Wrote in 60 Minutes. Let's welcome in Rich Podolsky right now. He wrote the book, Madden and Summerall, How They Revolutionized NFL Broadcasting. And I want to thank you for writing You Are Looking Live, which was one of my favorite. I listened to the books, Rich. I mean, it was like I was hanging on every second. And the fact that James Caan and Jimmy the Greek almost got into a fight before Super Bowl 10 at a hotel. I mean, you giving me insight like that is the best I could possibly ever ask for. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Since you guys are the Big 12 preview show, have you all decided who's going to win between Texas Tech and BYU this weekend?
I think it's going to be Texas Tech. My Scotty, our producer here, says BYU. We'll have to check in with our other producer, Chris Visser, because we know he wields the big stick. But I will tell you right now, I think it's going to be Texas Tech. I think, Rich, they have horses and they've mastered this NIL game. And the fact that they played so well together early in the season, I think they're only going to get better and better and better. It's a pretty cool story.
As long as they can keep their quarterback healthy.
Yeah, that's been tough for them. It has been tough. This book is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. And nobody better to write it than you, somebody who was inside and in the trenches with these guys. Was there something specific that moved you to write this book? Was there a moment when you said, hey, I'm gonna write this Madden and Summerall book because people need to hear this?
After You Are Looking Live was so successful and CBS wound up doing a documentary by the same name based on the book, I was sitting around with one of the people that worked at both CBS and Fox, and we were talking about, all the people that we wrote about in the book and how the NFL Today got started. And she said to me that she wanted to write a Substack because she had a lot of good Madden and Summerall stories. And I said, well, I'd be glad to help you, but why don't you write a book instead of just a Substack? And she said, no, I can't write a book. And I thought about it and I said, well, I certainly could. And she said, I'd rather give the stories to you and you put them in your book. And I thought about it and I realized there were two people I needed to write this book. I really enjoyed going back into my days at CBS. So I had to get a hold of Van Gordon Sauter.
Oh, wow.
President of CBS Sports at that time in the early 80s. And he was 88 years old living in L.A. I got a hold of him and I met him for lunch, flew out there from New York. And the other person was a guy named Terry O'Neill, who was a brilliant producer. And he was the one that Sauter hired to bring CBS into the 20th century as far as NFL production. O'Neill was the one who put together Summerall with Madden, except it was Sauter's idea to have Madden as the number one analyst, even though he was new to doing broadcasting and hadn't had a game go back to New York at that time.
Hey, do me a favor, Rich. Can you scooch over a little bit to your right? Does that chair have wheels? Oh,
Right?
There you go. Yeah, there you go. There we go. Perfect. We got to see that good-looking face of yours.
Yeah. Well.
So some of your writing and some of the stuff that you've brought to us, is very revealing. And I'd heard about Vin Scully and how close he was to getting that job. The Summerall job, which Summerall had actually had right before, and they did this test where they did Madden with 4 games with Scully and then 4 games with Summerall. Was there a moment there that the pick of Summerall was based on to call games with Madden, or was there a certain reason as to why?
The answer to your question is both of those. Scully liked to work alone, as he did in thousands of baseball games without an analyst. And he always had the amazing amount of research, and he was a great storyteller. And that was Madden's whole deal. He was a storyteller. He liked to tell anecdotes about players. Madden wound up having this innate ability to rife out the way a player not just played, but his
the terminology he used, the way he could bring my mom into the game, right? Telling stories about a player. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, he had this great ability to tell you all about the different ways a player could affect a game, and also what he was like. So there was no room for Madden on the broadcast with Scully. Scully was doing all the storytelling, and he left no room for Madden. I went back and I looked at the YouTube, the whole game of the last two games that Scully and Madden worked together, and there was no Madden was almost like a robot. And it certainly wasn't the Madden we grew to love and know. But when he went to work with the 4 games with Summerall knew what the story was. He knew that he had to make room for Madden. And Summerall described himself as a minimalist. He copied Ray Scott, who he worked with in his early days at CBS Sports. And Summerall made it work. He gave up of himself and he gave room for Madden to not only be Madden, but he gave him the time that he needed to. And Madden grew into it. And then once O'Neill gave him the CBS chalkboard so he could write on the screen and show you how play developed and why it happened, he always complained that TV only showed 4-on-4 football and not 11-on-11. And this was a way for him to do it. And he became America's football nutty professor.
How about how we got to this decision? I think it's super interesting. And for lack of a better word, the shenanigans, right, with Brookshire and Summerall together on the road. You've touched on the fact that they would arrive in a city to call a game together, and it was, popping bottles till they left to get on the plane to go back home. What went on there on the road? Is there any specific stories where a guy like Sauter is like, you know what, I think we've had enough of these guys together, and I think we need to make a change here because it's starting to affect the broadcast? They talk about that Super Bowl between the Rams and the Steelers, right, where Brookshire said, we weren't even prepared. We were at the pool all day long drinking.
Exactly. Boy, did you read the book or what? you got all the notes there, Pete.
Yeah.
It was a whole collection of them. I mentioned a couple of them in the book. One was when they were in a very famous bar in Manhattan, in one of the great hotels, and they were in the room where it was supposed to be polite gentlemen and ladies later at night having cocktails, and Brookshire, who had already had one too many, noticed that the piano player had a toupee. And before Summerall could stop him, Brookshire flew over the piano, grabbed the toupee, and came back to him like a hunting dog with the toupee. And Summerall had to make a deal with the manager that they would never, ever come back, so he wouldn't call the cops on him.
That sounds like the scene in the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Brookshire, he was a fun guy to hang out with, and he was a great guy. But, nobody had the nerve to ever tell him he had gone too far or had too much to drink. And on the other hand, Summerall never showed that he was drinking too much because he could always hold his liquor. And you never, ever knew if Summerall had 2 drinks or 20. He just was amazing that way. And, eventually it got to him. And in 93, Brookshire led an intervention that saved his life for another 18 years.
Yeah, you talk about that. And since we're here, I'd love to touch on that now. For me, I find it so interesting because I'm 14 years sober. And I can remember hearing when Madden or when Summerall would go to Betty Ford, there was a couple times where he would be absent and Vern Lundquist would be filling in for him. Mm-hmm. And I read Vern's book, and Vern would actually get a little pissed that, it was basically Pat's drinking really kind of affected Vern's emotional roller coaster, right? And you forget about that, the other people you affect, because Vern is told, I'm going to do the rest of these games, and then Pat would come right back in. Can you talk to us a little bit about before Pat crashed out and got help, what that was like for John Madden and the people around that environment that led to that intervention?
Well, everybody knew that Pat was drinking, including John. John had a rule when he went from the plane to the train and then to the bus that nobody could be drinking on the bus. And Pat had a way to hide his drinks. At one time, they were actually shooting a little scene for a halftime or a pregame on the bus, and it was like 10 in the morning, and Pat had a little can of Sprite in his hand, and one of the associate producers said, "Oh, let me get that out of the picture and out of the shot." And Pat said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't do anything with that can." And he said, "I'm going to just put it off to the side here. It won't be in the shot." And pretty much everybody knew it wasn't just Sprite in that can, that he always had some vodka in there too. And, on game day, one of the producers mentioned he always had a Solo cup, a red Solo cup, a to-go cup that had both, ginger ale or Sprite or something like that, and vodka. And, you could never tell. Pat really held it, and, it almost killed him in the early 90s. And eventually it did kill him because it just wrecked his body, even though he made it through Betty Ford and never had another drink after 93.
It's an amazing story, and you do such a great job breaking it all down. Madden and Summerall, the book is out now. Rich, what about the magical moments those two created together? Was there a particular time? Because I know you write that Madden struggled for the first couple of years, but Pat really worked with him and worked to make him better. But was there a moment when, whether it's the folks on Madison Avenue or the folks in Black Rock for CBS are like, wow, these guys are hot. We love this. They have turned the corner, and now they're a part of, the fabric of America, not just sports television.
Well, Madden always had it in him because it showed right away when he started doing the Miller Lite commercials, which is the reason Gordon Sauter wanted him to be the number one analyst. He started doing the Miller Lite commercials in the fall of 1980, which was his second year at CBS. As I said, he did 4 games the first year and 6 games the second year, and none of those games went back to New York. So when Terry O'Neill got to CBS in 81 and he met with for lunch with Sauter, he said, "Why do you want Madden? Have you seen any of his games? Because they haven't gone back to New York." And he says, no. How come he's the guy? He said, he's the guy. Finally, he admitted it was 30 seconds at a time in the Miller Lite commercials of Madden breaking through the wall and sidling up to the bartender and saying tastes great or less filling or whatever it was. He was the kind of guy that everybody could identify with. He wasn't going to talk down to you. And that's the way he was in the booth. It was none of this coach speak that so many of these analysts have. I don't want to mention any names, but they all think they're getting paid by the word. And, what Madden had total respect for Summerall, where he had very little respect for TV guys before he accepted the job. He called them all a bunch of hairdos, and he hated Howard Cosell. But Madden was almost self-taught because nobody at CBS really helped him until he got on the air with Summerall. And Summerall knew what Madden was all about and what he could become. They both were Renaissance guys. Summerall was a great athlete, and the first broadcaster to go from the field to the booth to then 12 years later to the play-by-play side. And he did that. He was the number one play-by-play guy at CBS for almost 7 years before the stories about the drinking with Brookshire got back to New York, and he got pulled off the job. And he was not happy when he had to fight for his job in 81. And he, for the first time in 20 years with CBS Sports, he got an agent. And then also he floated a story that made the AP and the New York Times that he was going to run for Senate in the state of Florida on the Republican ticket. And as you know, probably today, his daughter is an executive in the White House under President Trump. Her name is Susie Wiles. It stayed in the family that way, but he wound up getting the job and staying with CBS. And he and Madden, right from the beginning, Madden felt comfortable with him. He could tell his stories. And when he went out on a limb too far, Summerall had a great way of pulling him back by just saying a word or two. And they were just great together. They played off each other kind of like Abbott and Costello.
Yeah. And there was such a mutual respect there, right? I think that allowed them to work together. My theory is, and you probably have more on this in the book, and people can check it out, is that Madden probably really respected Summerall as an athlete and someone who had done it before. And so I'm sure the two of them really jived that way. Was there someone you talked to? You know, this is 50 years ago, this whole thing started. So I would imagine it's a little tougher to traverse, you know, America and find some of these players and characters in the story. But was there someone you talked to that told you a surprising story? Someone you didn't think was going to be able to give you that much, and you were like, "Wow, that's a pretty good one. This is going in the book."
A few of the guys that worked with him, you know, when Terry O'Neill started in '81, he hired 9 assistants straight out of college. They called them broadcast associates. He followed a path that Roone Arledge started when Terry was at ABC as producer of Monday Night Football. And among these 9, one was a guy named Mike Arnold, who today is CBS Sports #1 director, has directed 7 Super Bowls. And another was Richie Zients, who is Fox's #1 producer, and he's produced 8 Super Bowls. And these guys told me stories about working with Madden. And the story that I will never forget and didn't know was, you know, you always talk about, you know, Summerall and Brookshire did everything together, hung together, drank together. When the game was over, Madden and Summerall went their own ways. Summerall liked to hang out with the owners and of the other teams and the management and go to steak dinners and have his martinis, while Madden preferred to hang out with these kids and the crew. And one time they check into the hotel in Washington, D.C. for a game that weekend, and there's a note waiting for Madden. It's from Ethel Kennedy, the widow of RFK, who was the brother, of course, of the president. And the note says, "John, we are the Kennedy family here. We are huge fans of yours. We'd love to have lunch or dinner with you this weekend if you could fit us in." And little Mike Arnold looks up at John and says, "Geez, John, are you going to have dinner with Ethel Kennedy?" Who was quite famous in Washington at that time. And John looks at him and finally says, "Nah, I'm going to have Mexican food with you guys." That's who John was. Another story I heard from his son, Pat Summerall's son, was what a great athlete Pat was. Now, we all kind of knew he was great in basketball and football. In fact, he turned down a basketball scholarship from the great Adolph Rupp at Kentucky, who had won several national championships by then, because Rupp wouldn't let him play football too. So his son relayed to me that Pat had an ability to play 5 different sports that he lettered in high school, and one of them was tennis. Now, imagine Pat Summerall being a great tennis player. He taught himself how to play tennis starting at age 10 in the local playgrounds and schoolyards. His school didn't have a tennis team. He never had a coach, but they entered him in a tennis tournament in northern Florida. He swept through everybody and won it. And he decided he wanted to find out how good he was. There were every year in February, there was this great tennis tournament in Fort Lauderdale with all the rich kid tennis players down in South Florida. And he hitchhiked 320 miles with his one pair of high top black sneakers and his rickety old racket under his arm. And he won that tournament, the junior tournament. When he was 16, he beat an 18-year-old who wound up playing for in Forest Hills for the national championship 4 years later. So Pat was one hell of an athlete, and probably, if there was any money in tennis, would have gone that way instead. But he wound up playing in 1952 with the Detroit Lions and the great quarterback Bobby Lane He was an end and a defensive end on that team, and they won a championship that year. Unfortunately, Pat broke his arm in several places and was silly enough to tell the coach that even though his arm was healed the next year, he still couldn't reach out far enough to catch all Bobby Lane's passes like he could the year before. 2 weeks later, he was traded to the worst team in the league, the Chicago Cardinals. And he spent.
How did he get? You talk about him as an athlete.
To the Giants.
Yeah, and then he goes to the Giants, and he becomes a tremendous kicker, right?
And he became a folk hero. Yeah,
yeah.
He had a famous 50-yard field goal in 1958 in the wind and the snow at Giant Stadium. I think it was Yankee Stadium in those days, and it helped them make the playoff. That was against the Baltimore Colts and Johnny Unitas, and it was known as the greatest game ever played. And the 50-yard field goal was a decision of the coach that his assistant coach, Vince Lombardi, was against going for the field goal. It was near the end of the game. It was about a minute to go. He wanted to go for a first down to get closer, but it was 4th and like 3, and they went for it. And Summerall winds up in the huddle, and his quarterback says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "They sent me out to kick a field goal." He says, no kidding. Are you kidding? All right. And he kicks it, and it goes through, and he becomes a folk hero in New York, and he became known as the kicker ever after.
And what did Lombardi say to him when he came to the sideline?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. So when he gets back to the sideline after making the field goal, everybody's patting him on the back and jumping on him, and he sees Lombardi. He figures Lombardi's going to do the same. Lombardi grabs him and shakes him and says, "You son of a bitch, you know you can't kick it that far."
That's the best. How about Summerall's broadcasting chops? How did he develop those? I mean, I would imagine a guy like that's just naturally confident. You're talking about all of his esteemable acts, right? Being an amazing athlete. But how did he become such a great broadcaster?
He gave all the credit to his grandmother, who raised him in northern Florida, from sitting on the front porch reading books together. And he got a call one day, and the CBS producer was looking for Charlie Connolly, the quarterback of the Giants, for an audition for a weekend sports show on CBS radio. And Connolly wasn't there, and Summerall said, "I'll give him the message." And the guy said before he hung up, he said, "Well, what are you doing? You sound like you have a pretty good voice." He said, "Well, not much." He said, "Well, why don't you come too?" And he came, and he wound up winning the audition, getting the job. That led to a much bigger job on CBS radio, where they eventually made him a morning time drive talk show host when he was doing weather and sports and doing all sorts of interviews, telling stories, interviewing celebrities. Summerall first turned down the job. He said, "I can't do all that," but they sent him out to LA to work with a broadcaster by the name of Wink Martindale, who many of you probably know from game shows. And Wink was a DJ in those days, and he taught him how to do it. Sent him back to New York. He did the job. He was making a lot of money for 1962. He was making something like $500,000 a year because he was reading the commercials also, and he got paid for those. But by the end of the year, the sweet payday ended when CBS decided to go to all news all the time. And Summerall figured, I better find a job. He went to CBS Television, the sports department, and asked if he could work for them. And he wound up being the analyst on Giants games back in 1962, when CBS was doing 2 sets of announcers for each game, one for the home team and one for the visitors. Can you imagine that?
That's amazing. I heard you mention that on Mad Dog Russo. I thought that was just absolutely amazing. You talk about these two men. Did they understand that they were revolutionizing broadcasting? Was there a moment, because they really became a part of your family, it felt like? The most important day of the week when everybody's together, Sunday afternoon, these guys were there too. Did they understand that?
I don't know if they understood it, but I know that they felt the freedom to do what they wanted to do. And Madden came up with these ideas of getting to the game early and going and visiting the coaches and finding out strategy. And O'Neill was all in on that and went to Val Pinchback of the NFL and asked for permission for the whole crew to interview coaches and players 2 days before the games. Never had been done before.
Whoa. So
that
you're telling me when I go to because I call games now, like we get the access to these college coaches, like, on a Friday or a Thursday. You're telling me that John Madden started that? Wow.
Madden started that. What happened before that was the Madden and the Summerall, the play-by-play guy and the analyst would go with the producer and the director. They'd get there on Friday. They'd meet with the PR guy from each team at a certain restaurant or a bar. The PR guys would give them the injured players, the 3-deep roster, and also tell them how to pronounce the tough names. And after that, it was just storytelling for an hour, and then everybody went their own way. And that's the way it was every weekend. Nobody interviewed players or coaches. And it was totally Madden taking the train, getting there early, and doing it on his own. And then CBS coming along for the ride. And both Madden and Terry O'Neill would lecture the crew and the camera guys Saturday night in Terry O'Neill's suite at the hotel. And they would stay in. It would be a teach-in with Madden going over the plays to expect. If you had a test and you knew all the questions ahead of time, you would do well on that test too. And that's why CBS's production became the best. After that, they knew exactly what was coming.
Now, you were a part of the team at CBS during this time, mostly on the NFL Today, if I'm correct.
I was a writer in the studio, and I did public relations and publicity work during the week. And that's why I got to know Dick Ebersol at NBC. There was a year or two when he was producing Saturday Night Live, and he gave me a call and said, what do you think of the idea of having John Madden as the host of Saturday Night Live after the Super Bowl? Because we could send a producer on the train with him. Ebersol knew he was taking the train by then. And I talked Madden into it, and Madden loved the idea, and he was a little worried about it. But I said, "Don't worry, they'll never embarrass you on that show, and they'll just be a lot of fun." And it was a great night for him, and it was a great ride back to New York. They got stuck in a snowstorm in Buffalo, and Madden knew a guy who lived up there and came and picked them up. Took him to the train station down in Buffalo, and they hung out at a bar for an hour or two. When they got to the bar, it was totally empty. And within 15 minutes, it was full because word got out John Madden was there.
Couple more for you, Rich. This is great stuff for me. Was there a particular Super Bowl that those two guys really felt like, or you felt like, was their best? Because they called a lot of Super Bowls together. Was there one that they really felt like? You always hear Al Michaels and Summerall or Madden's last game, that Steelers-Cardinals one, was like the perfect game, Al Michaels says. But was there one for Summerall and Madden?
Yeah, that's really hard for me to pick. I think they did a great job in the first one, considering it was the first one, and the game. Their pregame started with Summerall sitting on Madden's earphones by accident, and they had to figure out a way to get him to.
And this is the game at the Silverdome, right?
At the Silverdome, yeah. I remember going there. It was an icy, snowy, horrible day, and the writer from the New York Daily News complained he had to walk too far from the bus to get inside the stadium, and he fell 3 times on the ice.
And that was the Bengals and the 49ers. And that was a huge broadcast for them. Just a couple more before I let you go. As they rolled off into the sunset, Summerall's health started to fail, right? What were those last couple years like for the two of them together, as maybe John started to see along with the production team, that maybe Pat was failing a little bit, but Pat didn't want to give up the reins. He loved what he was doing.
Yeah, he didn't, and he didn't realize he had a brain disease that was caused really by the alcoholism and how it wrecked his body, and it wound up killing him a few years later. But they saw a drop off in Pat's performance right around 99, 2000, and they came to him, the executives at Fox, David Hill and Ed Gorin, and they said, Pat, you're doing the Super Bowl with John in January or February of 2002. We want that to be your last broadcast. It'll mark 50 years in the business for you. We'd like to send you out with a soft landing. And Pat finally agreed to it, and they called a press conference. And at the press conference, he realized he didn't know what he would do without it. So he said, well, I'm not going to quit. I'm not giving it up. And it really made headlines all across the country. That, not so fast, Pat said. And Madden was aware of the slippage because David Hill, the top executive at Fox Sports, kept him updated on almost a daily basis of what he was talking to Pat about and what their intentions were. And I think John just tried to help make things as easy as possible for Pat, just like Pat made it easy as possible for John when John was a nervous wreck on their first broadcast together. So,
Rich, this is such good stuff. I could keep you here forever. Madden and Summerall, that is the book. It's out now. Get it wherever you get your books, How They Revolutionized NFL Broadcasting. I thank you so much for the delightful read that the NFL Today was. You Are Looking Live. I encourage people to grab that too if they haven't read it. And I can't wait to dig into Madden and Summerall. And I really do appreciate you sharing all this stuff for us, because when I was a kid, Rich, I would come home from church and I would put out the Philadelphia Inquirer and I would watch your show, the NFL Today. And that was my first flirtation with addiction. Dunkin' Donuts, the football spreads, the NFL Today, into the college football or the NFL football day. Just amazing times, dude.
Where did you live in Philly?
So I grew up in Bryn Mawr, right outside, right by Villanova University. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the other side, Northeast Philly.
Let's go. Where'd you go to high school?
Northeast High.
All right. I went to Archbishop Carroll. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I played varsity basketball, and they had an old-time coach named Ike Woolley. And at halftime, he'd give us the speeches every time we were in a close game, when he had the great Guy Rogers.
Rogers, yeah.
The great guard who played for Temple University and then the 76ers, how he beat Will Chamberlain in Overbrook High with Guy Rogers.
It's amazing. All the talent, by the way, and you talk about this in the NFL Today book, that came out of that Philadelphia area. The guys working at WCAU radio that really kind of matriculated up to New York and changed history.
Yeah, and in that NFL Today book, I had a lot of fun at a guy named Jack Dolph's expense because of the bookies waiting every Monday in the CBS lobby because it was not good at making his bets, but he was a genius at programming. And he came from WCAU in Philly.
Great stuff, Rich. I hope you sell 1 million books, like my man Mad Dog said. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank Chris for me.
You got it. I will.
Take care.
Got it. Thanks so much, Rich. And there you go. Chris Visser gets the thank you from Rich Podolsky, and we get over 30 minutes of absolute compelling info and intel for this guy right here, and I hope for you. I cannot wait to tackle this book. We'll step aside. Scotty's got a great story for us about why sports really are as special as they are, and then we'll get on with it. Let everybody get on with their day on this Wednesday. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovakic.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble does bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code Sousa to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code Sousa. That's S-O-U-S-A. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play-and-get-terms_DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. Pete Sousa Show. Scotty Swingler. Thanks so much for joining us. Want to tell you real quick about Underdog. Listen, I went 2 for 3 last night on my picks. VJ Edgecombe and Cameron Boozer came through with me. And again, Underdog lets you do these flex picks. So I got some money back. I didn't make money actually on my low risk 2 for 3, but I got some money back. So I didn't lose money. Good stuff on Underdog. Here's my flex pick for tonight. I did the flex pick again. So I just got to get 2 of these. And this time I will actually profit if I get 2 of them. And I'll make even more money if I get 3 of them. Maybe you can pick along with me. Here's what I got for tonight.
Such a homer, dude.
Erling Haaland. Listen.
I look, just
Pete,
go ahead.
Let me finish the promo real quick, and then you can, and we'll come back and you know what's great about this? We'll check in tomorrow, and I'll tell you if I got him right or wrong. Erling Haaland, for my money, the best soccer player in the world. He gets 5 or 6 shots on target most matches. Big game today, and I think he gets higher than 2.5 shots on target. That game's in about 2 hours here, so if you want to get on this pick, you need that one. Keontae George. Kind of quietly for Baylor fans because VJ Edgecombe is coming alive. But this dude is averaging like 26 points and 6 assists a game or something like that right now. So I love this. You know I love this when you can combo points, rebounds, and assists higher than 31.5 points plus rebounds plus assists for the great Keontae George against Detroit tonight. And then Luka Doncic. Listen, we're talking most nights about if this guy's going to get a triple-double. A double-double is like a gimme. That's like a gimme. In a big game against the Spurs. Give me Luka with a double-double tonight. Those are my Underdog picks. Remember to use that promo code Sousa, and you'll get all that bonus cash with your first deposit. Good way to play with free money. So there you go, Pete.
That's excellent. So we got one great story coming up from Scotty. Just one thing to talk to you about. A couple things. One, remember we got Spencer Tillman tomorrow, okay, followed by Greg Wrubell from BYU. And then Friday we'll be hearing from Coach Joey McGuire for Texas Tech, and we'll also be hearing from Jay Catch from Locked On Cougars. They'll be getting us set for that huge BYU game. I want to also share with you guys something that Visser pointed out to me. That's very true. Tell a friend about the show, please. Just simple marketing here. Tell a friend. The podcast version is up every day, so you can listen to it audio-wise, or you can listen to, obviously, the YouTube version at any time during the day. And you can go back into our catalog and see all the interviews like we had today with Rich Podolsky, like we had yesterday with Michelle Beadle, like we'll have tomorrow with Spencer Tillman. There's a lot of great stuff there. And there's also a lot of Scotty Swingler in the archives as we bring him back. Story time with Scotty is taking place.
Story time with, oh gosh. Well, you said I'm on a time limit here, so it's not truly story time with Scotty.
I got to be at lunch at noon.
One day you and I, Pete, will go camping at some nice national park, and we'll sit around the fire, and we'll get the full story time with Scotty experience. But I wanted to share this. I wanted to share this today. It's one of these, it starts like a hard story, but it ends as a good story. It's a feel-good story. It's a story about why sports bring us all together. And, you know, and when we are at our best, religion brings us all together as well. So let me tell you, Pete.
That, Liz.
Goodness. Okay, let me recover here. Let me tell you, Pete, a story. I'm going to throw up their picture here about this guy, Ivan Ortiz. Ivan is... Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. I'm trying to upload a photo and tell a story at the same time. Ivan is the team barber for the Texas Tech Red Raiders football team. He also is part of a barbershop or a studio there in Lubbock. And his wife, pictured here, Maddie, was in a car accident October 16th, drunk driver, and she has a lot of obstacles to overcome. It appears as if it's going to make a recovery, but she was a stay-at-home mom, so he is a single income provider for their son here. And so Ivan created a GoFundMe and was just asking for help. Hey, anything you give helps. I think the initial goal was like $5,000 or something. Like, you know, we're dealing with hospital bills, trying to provide for my son, like long road to recovery ahead. Well, this week, some BYU fans noticed this and started really actively posting this on X and reposting it. And let me pull it up. I have the fundraiser here. Let me give you a live number, Pete. For Ivan, we are up to $68,706 raised. A ton of BYU fans specifically have given to this. If you look through these comments on GoFundMe, it's a lot of go Cougs, but we're all in this together, or go Cougs, but we're all God's children. Hope you get well. You know, go Red Raiders, except this weekend. There's a lot of those kind of comments here. And the top donor, it's public here on the GoFundMe, so I'm not outing anybody. Kirk Herbstreit.
No.
with a $5,000 donation as part of this to support Ivan and Maddie. So I was really touched by this. I'm getting your live reaction here. I didn't tell you about the story and you hadn't seen the story. But I saw that and thought it was worth mentioning. So if anyone watching wants to get involved, look, if you just look up Ivan Ortiz GoFundMe, it's all over X, all over Google. You can give to support this family who's obviously part of the Texas Tech football community and the BYU football fan community kind of before this weekend's big game where we're going to have a big, huge college football matchup to determine maybe a playoff spot.
That's so awesome.
I thought it was really touching, man. Really
it's
touching.
So awesome. And, Drake Toll gave me a call last night and we talked. And we were talking about the Big 12 and how it really is cool that BYU is doing so well. And then we kind of talked about, BYU is a newer entry to the Big 12. And we talked about getting to know the fan base and the people there and how awesome it is to have BYU in the Big 12. And this is another glowing example of that. So Scotty, man, way to go, dude. That's like, we used to have the Good News Friday on KWTX, right? Or Julie Hayes has a Tell Me Something Good piece on KWTX.
It's just a good reminder, man, not to get way too far into social commentary the day after an election day. But, there's all this crap that makes us feel like we should be separate or different or spew vitriol toward human beings. And so, sports are not as serious as politics, but certainly – we are also passionate about them and get excited about them, but yet they still bring us together, remind us that we're all human. And I was really pleased. And Ivan's been tweeting about this, saying just how blessed his family is by the
that is
support.
so awesome.
Props to BYU fans, props to Texas Tech fans, anyone else who's given. I just think it's really cool.
And Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah. Top donor listed on
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. Yeah, huge.
All right, let's see. What do we got here? All right. Tomorrow, Spencer Tillman and Greg Wrubell previewing college football. And remember, I think it's important. Our producer, Chris Visser, right? He spent Thanksgiving once with John Madden and his sister Leslie. I mean, that's who we're dialed in with this. Leslie, of course, when you watch the Dallas Cowboys documentary, was a nice reminder of Leslie Visser and her work at CBS, and she was part of that #1 team with Madden and Summerall. And we're very lucky to have Chris Visser, who is broadcast royalty, a part of the team here at the Rogue Media Network. And Chris, I don't know if you heard, but Rich Podolsky says hello. All right. So that's going to wrap it up here, as we like to wrap with royalty and good stories on a Wednesday. It's not even Friday yet, and we're having a good time. All right. We'll be back tomorrow with Spencer Tillman. The one thing about the Spencer Tillman interview that I think a lot of people are going to want to drill down on, Spencer's going to teach a class at his alma mater, Oklahoma, and it's about the future of college football. And as smart as Spencer is, I cannot wait to hear. Give me at least the syllabus, because I got to wrap my mind around the future of college football. Because when people ask me, I just hang onto the steering wheel. I'm like, I'm not quite sure. So Spencer will help us out with that tomorrow. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you, Sovacics. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference, because my stress level when we shut down to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.